Welcome to Pound for Pound ATL, arguably the best place to get facts and opinions on your Atlanta Falcons. And absolutely the best place to get your opinions in. The guys are here, the chat is ready, and the conversation starts now.
What's going on, football fans? It's me, JR Clark, back again with another rendition of the Pound for Pound Live. I'm joined by my main man, Mike Dubb. As you can see, we're down 2. Jimmy's out there playing Army, as he does. I say playing. That man's doing more than I've done all week, probably. Toby D's caught in traffic with his rain that's moving through. So it is just me and Mike Dubb today. What's going on, Mike?
Hey, man. Glad to be here. And I think that, hey, we down 2 comrades today. But you know what? I think what is very appropriate about this show today is we moving on, right?
That's it.
And when we talk about moving on, as Falcons fans, we heard it. I'll talk about the Jet up front. We'll give the Jet his time up front, and then I'm going to move on myself. I will say this, in a week of moving on, it's real. We did a video, JNR and I, we talked about Julio Jones leaving this team. And, again, we did all of that stuff Sunday, but I will say this. Julio Jones is now in Tennessee. That's behind us. The one thing I will say, I got to speak on it now up front, JR, while you throw it over to me, is that I do think that I'm glad that he offered up some love to the city of Atlanta for all of his time here. But I will be honest, I felt like it was a little bit too late. I felt like it was a day too late. I felt like as soon as you got to Tennessee, Jet, I know you got a lot of stuff to do. It would have been nice to know that right then, hey, you're empathetic. But it seems like you saw your new digs. You had a day to think about it. You said what you said, and you've moved on. So, hey, if Julio Jones has moved on, I've moved on. It's time to move on. We got minicamp. We got a lot to talk about. And, again, JR, I'm just fired up to talk about it, man. What you got this week, big dog?
It's all good. No, I'm with you. I think a lot of people, I saw going across social media that, some people were upset that he didn't fire off an apology, or not an apology, but a farewell right away. Some folks were upset that his farewell seemed a little short or whatever. Right. I would say in that scenario, what do you really expect from Jones, who didn't really interact with the media all that much to begin with? I read his farewell. That seemed about like a Julio Jones-esque farewell for what, as much as we know of the guy. Could it have come a day sooner? Sure. If as the reports were being relayed from the guys from the Athletic or whatever, had you been upset with and wanting to be gone from the team as early as Dan Quinn being fired last year, then part of me is couldn't you have already had your publicist prepared that one to be released? As you know what I'm saying? To be fired off as soon as you got traded. But that's the thing though, is now it, the talk is, oh, well, Arthur Smith knew that Julio Jones wanted to be traded before he took the job. So that's why they drafted Kyle. We don't know. Okay. Straight up and down, even the reports that we're seeing are nothing but speculation per se. And it doesn't behoove the team, nor the player, nor the coach to come out and say one way or the other. It doesn't do anything for them, right?
I agree. And I think one thing that, this week has taught me is that it's another kudos for Arthur Smith, because I think, Arthur Smith has given us some quotable material, but I think him saying that, I can't really speak about the players that I haven't coached, I thought was an immaculate response.
That was a good one.
It was a really good one to, I'm going to work on what I have here. So what I will say is this, as we talk about every week about this show, we talk about Arthur Smith, we talk about accountability, we talk about the way, he's able to kind of be an innovative situational awareness type coach. I think he also strikes me as a coach that is very dialed in. He's very focused on what is important for this team. And I think especially being a rookie head coach, in the NFC South where nothing's going to be handed to us. I think that, to be honest with you, it's good to see how we respond, because a lot of times, Julio Jones is going to be Julio Jones, but it's interesting to see how us as an organization post Julio Jones is going to respond to adversity. So I think for me, if we want to give Arthur Smith a grade in his first, test on adversity, I would say that he passed it, because Julio Jones, speaking about it, that is adversity. Even though, there were reports that might have said that, he may have known that Julio Jones was not interested in being a Falcon, even when he was hired, right? But just the fact of the way he responded, the way he just kept it tongue in cheek, moved forward, it lets me know that we got a coach that's, I do see him, this team being able to buy into this guy. Because that was also a question I had. I was like, how long is it going to take for this team to buy into this guy? And it looks like everybody's dialed in and focused. So that's a good sign.
Yeah, that is a good sign. I mean, look, and at the end of the day, all these guys are professionals, right? And even the guys coming in like that are just being drafted, just now getting into the league, they've all been playing ball like their whole lives. They've dealt with coaching changes, and whether it be at the high school level or the collegiate level or even, rec ball level, they've been dealt with coach changes and stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, all these guys, this is part of the gig, right? This is part of the what we talk about all the time when we talk about the professionalism, So is it interesting to hear that, Julio Jones may have been souring on the team as early as his negotiations 3 years ago, and this stuff cemented with the firing of Dan Quinn? Was he real close to, they made it sound like he was real close to Dan Quinn, and maybe that wasn't necessarily, something that they wanted to see, which, I mean, is possible, because you saw, even in the midst of losing seasons, you saw the players defend Dan Quinn. So it's not like they didn't have his back. They just didn't play well for him, or it wasn't schemed well, or whatever. I mean,
yeah, but I think that's toxic, though. I'll be honest with you, Jay. I'll just call it straight up what it is. To me, that's toxic, because it's not working. We're not winning. We're not getting better, yet we're still defending it. That is the definition of almost a borderline toxic relationship, especially if your leaders are advocating for someone contributing to the sinking of the ship. You see what I'm saying? To me, that's a bit, I don't know, it's a bit counterintuitive. That's the word I want to use as far as, how you want to build a football team. Because here's the thing. We're a sinking ship. We're failing. Teams are actually telling us the way they're beating us. Oh, the Falcons are lining up exactly the way we see them on film, and they're beating us in ways that they've already seen on film.
Yep.
I think the ability to still defend that, to me, says that we needed an Arthur Smith. I'll be honest with you. I never thought, I wouldn't say up to this point that we needed an Arthur Smith, but I think we need a coach that's going to, run a program where the coach is the guy, right? The coach, hey, the team, the buck stops with me. All these superstars are great, but I'm the guy running this team. And I think sometimes as the CEO, like if the CEO is more buddy with certain guys, because I feel like this. I feel like this is my analogy. If you and I, JR, are receivers and we're Olamide Zacchaeus, we're, I don't know, Christian Blake, right? We're not going to be able to go to Dan Quinn's house and have a conversation and say, Dan, things need to be like this and da-da-da-da.
Right.
Julio Jones.
By God.
By God, I want to run more slant routes. I want to run more deep routes. Julio Jones, like, those guys don't have the ability to do that. But I think, here's the thing. If a head coach allows his star receiver, can you imagine Terrell Owens and his head coach going to the lake talking about, all right, look, Terrell, how does the team need to work? Well, you need to feed me the ball at least 20 times, try to force it to me in double cut. That's what, to me, those are the type of decisions that sink franchises. But, again, I go back to the narrative that, again, pound for pound family, if you're going to continue to tap in, we are dialed in on our head coach right now. And that is a good sign.
Yeah, and the deal, like, to me is, and I don't want to spend too much more time, kind of like the coach, I don't want to spend too much more time on a player that ain't on my team no more. But, it's the topic, right? So it's the deal of we're talking about what's going on with the team. But, yeah, there's a certain aspect of being a player's coach, because you have, like, the new sheriff in town mentality, which, a new coach tends to come in with. You have, But, you talk about like the old regime who could have been like too buddy, not enough accountability,
Right.
too much like thinking that the brotherhood's going to see you through, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And look, that works and that's great as long as you're winning, right? You
Right.
start losing, how do you adjust to it? And so, if he looked around and said, hey, look, this ain't a situation I want to be in no more. I'm coming to the end of my career. I want to like end it the way I want it to be ended. Then I ain't gonna sit here and blame the guy by all means.
No.
Like, and to me, like the more I look at it, the more I look at the situation, the more it's starting to come to light or whatever. I do feel like, maybe he didn't necessarily know he was on air with Shannon Sharp because, and the only reason why I say that is, yes, if he had all these feelings, he'd done a real good job of not really letting it out and not really letting anybody know it. Preserving the concept of, hey, this is still a good team, still a good organization, yada yada yada, right? Being professional, and if at the end of the day he said, all right, you know what, I'm done, I'm out, I want to end it, go play somewhere that suits my style, suits my needs better, then awesome, good job. And so for at least for a while, that'll probably be like kind of put a bow on that. But I really want to start getting into, training camp and stuff. But right before we jump into that, let's go ahead and jump into chat. It's not moving too fast today, so I think I should be able to get everybody. Bubba Gump says, what up, what's going on, Bubba? Bug says, hi, guys. What's up, Bug? Wound Carter says, rise up, pound for pound family. Glad to see y'all. I have some questions out of curiosity. And he was talking about the report that Julio wanted out of Atlanta after DQ was fired with an 0-5 start. Any truth to that? I mean, look, I don't know if we'll ever get like an actual story, but I mean, it's feasible. It seems reasonable to me because they have the same agent, Arthur Smith and Julio Jones, that I'm pretty sure, Jimmy Sexton probably told Arthur Smith, hey, look, Jones is trying to get out of there, but Arthur Smith's looking at it like, there's only 32 of these coaching jobs out here. I like this one, so I'm going to take it, kind of deal. Anyway, so that's that. Suicidal Beats, what's up, fellas? What's going on, Beats? King says, what's up, everybody? A lot to unpack here this week. There is a lot to unpack, and I'm glad to jump into it. Dexter Valley said, yes, sir. I'm assuming he's either saying hello or something we talked about. Chris Jameson says, like what I'm hearing about Frank Darby this early. I'll tell you this, if you've watched any of the clips coming out of the social media department of the Falcons, Frank Darby is all over that thing, which I am interested to see. So,
let's talk about Darby for a second, because I think that what I like about Darby is what he creates for the rest of the receivers, right? Because I think his energy that we see, the Falcons see it allows receivers to be themselves, right? Because I think, everybody knows who the number one receiver is on this team. It's Calvin Ridley. And
by far, by a long shot.
Guy, right? But I think that you got a Darby. You got a lot of guys that, man, I can just be who I am. Like, I can come to work, be who I am. I'm not trying to impress Julio and the coach. Because that's another thing. It's like, when you're playing with a Jordan-esque type of player, man, when you're playing with a guy that, like, is at that level, sometimes it's like, you can't really be yourself around that guy because you borderline idolize the guy, right? So it's like, there's no idol. It's just, a bunch of good guys. So I'm excited to see what Darby can do for sure.
Yeah, I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see who steps up in that. Yeah. Right now, obviously, Calvin Ridley is your number one. Like nobody is doubting that at all. Nobody's questioning that. We got to see that sample size last year in the games that Julio was out. Calvin Ridley had over 1,300 yards. So, yeah, Calvin Ridley, true number one, flat out.
Absolutely.
So, like, we automatically assume, and when I say number 2 wide receiver, I'm just talking about the second one on the depth chart. I know sometimes when you start talking about number 2 wide receivers, people will be like, oh, well, that guy's not an X, or that guy's not a this, or this guy's more of a slot. Okay, I'm just talking about your number 2 on the depth chart, like as far as, Yeah. Anyway, so your number 2 right now is Russell Gage, right? He has the most experience on the team, which I'm gonna go ahead and call it. Like, that's an interesting thought process. A 6th-round guy who, when we drafted him, I was like, oh, this guy's he's the next Eric Wings. He's the next like special teams ace that will get in on some, plays here or there. But man, he has done a tremendous job of cementing himself as a quality slot receiver, as a chain mover, and now he has the potential to, cement himself as, wide receiver number 2 on the depth chart for sure. But
yeah,
now what you do, obviously losing Jones, is like size, and freakish athletic ability, and outside of, I don't think any of our wide receivers are above 6'1", are they? Like, because
No.
Darby, I pulled Darby up, right?
Actually, Tajay Sharp. Okay, so
Well, I'll pull up Sharp as well too.
Tajay Sharp is about 190. So I really think, so here's the thing. For as much as we talk about Russell Gage, I feel like Russell Gage is deadly as the number 3. I do think he's capable of stepping up with Calvin Ridley and Russell Gage, but in this run game that we got a Mike Davis, right?
Oh, yeah.
I don't think the combination of Russell Gage and Calvin Ridley on the outside, it doesn't give us the best chance in the run game. So I think that, one thing I'll say we'll probably do, and I'll definitely try to do my due diligence on a Tajay Sharp, because a guy like that can help, start to, I would say, run some of the Mohamed Sanu routes. Because I felt like for a good number 1, like Julio Jones was and is, when we had Mohamed Sanu come in, play a role, know what's expected of him, run the tough routes, just kind of get open, because, it's a different offense, So the way Calvin Ridley got open under Dan Quinn, he'll get open in different ways. And Calvin Ridley will get open.
Yeah, that I'm not worried about. I'm not worried about Calvin Ridley getting open. I'm not worried about, like, he's shown that he can, beat double coverage. He, his route running gives him the separation, needed. Like his metrics are true number 1 metrics. I'm not worried about, Calvin Ridley. And I know it's going to sound crazy, but I'm really not worried about it that much past Calvin Ridley. I think it can be, a sum of their parts kind of deal. I think we got a lot of guys who are pretty similar. Like, I'm sitting here looking at Frank Darby's measurables, 6 foot, 194, 31 3/8 arm length, decent on the 40-yard dash, if you care much about that. He's got an okay speed score. I mean, he just seems like an okay, like, measurable guy all the way around. I'll be really interested to see how he ends up developing. And then, you brought up Tajay Sharp, which is a guy who obviously is going to end up benefiting from the, Julio trade for sure. He's a 6'2", 194. So, okay. He's bigger than I thought he was. So, it'll be interesting to see how this wide receiver group, which I still think can be serviceable, borderline a strength. I mean, obviously you lose Jones and the, like, needle goes down, right? I mean, that's just inevitable. Anybody trying to say that it doesn't would seem kind of silly to me. So, the needle goes down, obviously, with Jones out here, but who is given the opportunity to step up? Is it a Tajay Sharp? Is it Olamide Zaccheaus, who we've seen some flashes from? Is it
Absolutely.
Jimmy's guy, Christian Blake, who we've seen some flashes from? So it'll be interesting to see how this wide receiver room shakes out. Then you add in a guy like a, Mike Davis, like and a coach that is more committed to the run game. Like, yes, don't get me wrong, Derrick Henry is an amazing runner, 2,000 yards, but Derrick Henry under our former regime wouldn't have looked like that, because you didn't have a coach who was committed to the run game. Okay? Now, you can say, oh, he was committed because he had Derrick Henry. And if that's the case, then that tells me he's at least willing to utilize his strength. Okay? Which we're going to get into that here in just a minute. But
Right.
that still speaks to the coaching staff. Okay, that still speaks to the guy running the show. If he's willing to, oh, you'd be a fool not. Okay, at one point in time in the first 2 years Henry was there, he was not used that way. So,
I agree.
the form. Anyway, that's getting off on a complete and utter tangent. But the wide receiver room has now gotten a lot more interesting with the departure of Julio Jones. And now, like, you have the report coming out today that Calvin Ridley had a minor procedure done on his foot. So that's why you're not seeing him at practicing at mandatory minicamp. He is apparently there. He's just not doing any drills, which is good. He's there. He's in the room. He's learning. This is the, mental aspect more than about anything else this time of year.
And you love to see it, because what I do notice about Calvin Ridley is one of those guys on Instagram that I follow just daily, because I like his just the way he goes about his business, right? And just especially the way he runs routes. And I look at his attention to detail to routes in the offseason, because usually Calvin Ridley is one of those guys, you can look at the way he prepares in the offseason and see that he's about to have a monster year, right?
Oh.
And I noticed he was on track for that, but I noticed he had really stopped posting for like month and a half. And I wondered, I was like, either this guy is super dialed in because he knows something, or Julio Jones is not going to be here and it's a contract year for this guy, or he might be nursing something. So I think Calvin Ridley fine for training camp. Is that really all I need to hear? But he is a guy that he's a quick twitch, bursty guy, right? So foot surgery is a little bit concerning. I think that, foot surgery was concerning when Julio Jones had all of those issues, right? So when you hear about a star receiver getting surgery on his foot and you use it so much, a little bit nerve-wracking. But these guys, they get the best trainers, the best doctors, the best care out there. So him being back, hey, let's roll,
That's right. And at this junction, everything that has come out of it, about his, foot procedure seems to be very minor. Seems like he'll be ready to go for the start of camp, and that's when you really want him ready to go. It is the start of camp. So let's jump back into chat here. Tony Wright says, "What's happening, Pound for Pound family? What's going on, Tony?" Joshua says, "What's good, P for P? What's up, man? Glad you are here with us tonight." Same thing with Trent A. Love Life says, "I'm going to miss Julio Jones, but I think we will still be." We still got a solid offense without him. I think so. With a chance to be more than just solid, with a different set of eyes on it.
Absolutely.
If it was the old regime and Jones was gone, I'd be a lot more concerned than I am now, per se. Tony Wright says, "So do you guys know about, the minor foot procedure," which is what we were just talking about now. Adam Holloway says, "Listen, the social media department don't got no love for my trench players." I don't know, man. Your trench players they've been all over the Instagrams. I see them guys walking out they are huge. That Tyshawn Graham dude, the kid that we got out of Texas, my God, that guy is a lot bigger than he looks. A lot bigger than I was initially thinking. Let's see. Nick says the Falcons practiced in the rain yesterday. Quinn never did that. I don't know if. Look, you got to play in the rain if it rains. If it starts raining, you might as well practice in it. Speaking of things that Quinn never did, I did see that they announced a joint practice with the Miami Dolphins this year. So it's kind of interesting to see them going back to that type of a well. Iron sharpens iron, so it's great to practice against your own guys, but it's also good, in my opinion, to see how you're stacking up against other teams, and especially considering Miami's got a pretty good defensive line with Christian Wilkins. So if we can start testing this O-line early, I think that's going to benefit us. Let's see. Mike O says, "Just checking in from San Diego." Well, what's going on, Mike? Glad you decided to check in. He said, "ATL, born and raised." Not sure if we talked about Ridley's foot. Well, we have now talked about Ridley's foot. So we can talk about, or we can move on from that. Adam is admonishing us at this point for up to that point forgetting to talk about Christian Blake and Jimmy's guy, Christian Blake. But we have now mentioned him, so we should be off the hook there. Jimmy shouldn't.
You know what? We'll go there. because Adam is one of our great friends of the show. So, Adam, do you think what role do you see for Christian Blake in this regime? I would actually like to know from the standpoint that between you and Jimbo Slice, if I hear from you guys, I might actually acknowledge it. I just do not personally, at this point in time, see a place for CB13 on this roster. There's no knock on Christian Blake. He might crush it. He might be the talk of minicamp. I just don't see it. But Adam, if you see it, please put it in the
comments. Let us know, right? Because I think that's a position that Tajay Sharp could take for sure. He already has familiarity with Arthur Smith, so I mean he's got a leg up in that aspect. Let's see. Jeremy Cole, he was talking about. Okay, hold on. Jeremy Cole was talking about Mike Davis is a very underwhelming at running back. Unless you're telling me the O-line will be great at run blocking. Now, look, I can't tell you that the O-line is going to be great at run blocking. What I can tell you is that the outside zone scheme tends to benefit offensive linemen. And what I mean by that is that you don't necessarily have to have the best offensive lineman to make that scheme go and make that scheme run.
Absolutely. Well, my question would be to that is, to the person that posed the question, from your criteria, what does it take to be an overwhelming running back? What does that running back have to have? Because what Mike Davis is, to me personally, and this is just my honest opinion, is Mike Davis is, I wouldn't say that he's an underwhelming or overwhelming running back. I think that with a running back, you just need a guy that can move the chains, and he's a chain mover. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be, hey, Mike Davis doesn't bust enough 25-yard runs. That's not his game. His game is to move the chains, and football is a game of inches. And your running back has to move the ball forward in this game of inches. Mike Davis, from my perspective, moves the ball forward and, again, gets tough yards, plays dirty, understands this league, great at pass blocking. To me, you can't say somebody is underwhelming when they're great at pass blocking, because we would have a Super Bowl right now if we were better at pass blocking. That's another conversation. Okay? And I'll put it back to JR.
That's right. But no, yeah, I think the only thing, like, if I had a concern about Mike Davis is that, towards the end of the season last year, like, he did start to, like, his production started to decrease quite a bit. And so I don't know if that's, like, I haven't necessarily went back and watched every game of the Carolina Panthers to know if that was what became dictated of the scheme or, what have you. I know Joe Brady seemed to be more of a passing coordinator, so maybe that was the deal.
Right.
But I'm not sure. I just know that his production. So that if I had a concern, it is that. But I think it's going to be a running back by committee. With a guy like Davis, Olesen, and I think Javian Hawkins. I think those are going to be your top three. I guess you could throw Cordell Patterson in there as well. I guess I can't. My mind will not rest on him as a running back. Maybe once I see him, live running the ball, maybe then I'll finally let it sink in. But yeah, I mean, right now, no, we don't have an overwhelmingly spectacular running back. But absolutely. I think what we do have is a more than solid running back. Like, more than solid running back by committee is what I think we have.
And I'll say it like this. He's not a guy, Mike Davis is not a guy you want to draft on your fantasy football team, but he is a guy that you need to be able to win football games. Just point. Because he's not going to be the guy, Mike Davis got me 3 touchdowns. Now, if he got you 3 touchdowns, they might be 4-yard touchdowns or 2-yard touchdowns if he got you 3 touchdowns. But that's not what we're asking Mike Davis to do. We're asking Mike Davis to come and move the chains. Now, that does lead me into JR. I will say this, our left guard competition, because I talked about this on the show a couple of months back where I said they're giving Josh Andrews first dibs at left guard. I do think the one thing that benefits Mike Davis is competition. Competition on the offensive line breeds with the running game, because you got a lot of guys in a few spots. And you got guys that are absolutely versatile enough, because if at the worst, Hennessy beats out by Dahlman for the center position, and he's our left guard. Hennessy has played left guard in a football game before and has showed a functional ability to open holes. I'm not saying he's great.
Yeah, I'm about to say I'm not. I don't. Me personally, if Hennessy don't win out at center, I want Hennessy
Right.
as my backup
Right.
center, and that's it. Because
But
I don't know if it
yeah,
was necessarily scheme or whatever,
right.
but the like the experiment, the early on experiment of Hennessy at left guard did not look good to me.
I,
But
I,
that was last
I would,
year, so
but again, I think having Mayfield, having guys, right? And again, Mayfield, we hadn't heard a lot about him, and that's not a bad thing because if he was struggling mightily, they might have said, "Hey, that rookie is struggling." But we didn't hear that he's out here punishing people because you don't want to hear that about a rookie either because it's usually they're learning, they're growing, they're becoming better players. I just
right.
think that the competition on the offensive line always breeds good for the running game if it works out.
Yeah.
If we're playing best five, we'll be a better football team with the run than we were last year.
I think. Well, and I also think the commitment to the run will be make it a
Absolutely.
better almost by default. Genuine Music says, "What's up, fellas? In the truck today, so I can't interact, but I am listening. Well, I'm glad you are here, sir."
Salute, bro.
Bible Truth Ministries says, "What bothers me about Ridley is he is kind of scary on the field. Like he likes it. He says he likes doing everything he can to avoid getting hit. So I don't know if I necessarily have seen that, but I mean." He does, angle towards the sideline. Hey, don't take a hit unless you got to, I guess.
So wait a minute. I do agree. Let's say this. I can't lie. You know what? When I first heard it, I was like, wait a minute. Don't be talking about Calvin Ridley like that. But the more I think about it, you're absolutely right a little bit because Calvin Ridley is a slider. And if you follow him, it's slide Ridley. Slide Ridley means I'm sliding by you. I'm not necessarily trying to run through you. That's not his game. But again, as a number one receiver, the more Calvin Ridley is sliding, we in good position because we know what he can do. His body at work speaks for itself. Anyway, but
yeah, there you go. We're gonna keep right on moving. Simplistic Grace says, "Made it here for the first stream with y'all." Oh, well, good. I'm glad you're here. Same thing with Kisner. He says, "Well, what's up, guys? First time watching live. I'm glad y'all are here."
Yes, sir. Glad to get
Adam says, "Them having joint practices with Miami is really good for Atlanta's defense." Brian Flores is a proponent of the Belichick/Pease, being familiar with that system. So they'll see the D that they're running full tilt, something Arthur noted.
Well,
okay, well, there you go. I mean, I'll deal with it.
So real quick, and I think Adam, I'm glad you brought up Adam's comment because it might be time to, just mix it up just a little bit and talk a little bit about the defense because we didn't say a thing about the defense. And what I'm noticing about minicamp is this, JR, is if it's one player that I think that we haven't talked a lot about, if it's one player that we haven't talked a lot about, is Michael Walker, I think, with Dean Pease defense because we don't hear a lot about a lot of players. There's not a lot of players being mentioned as, hey, these guys are kind of thriving in Dean Pease defense. It's Michael Walker. And I thought Michael Walker was one of our most consistent players on defense, regardless of rookie, whatever. I do think that he seems like a guy, just listening to his interview, that is ready to take the next step and really be a dominant force in the linebacking core. And I think that, to me, gives me a little bit of comfort because Dean Pease right now has three buildable linebackers. Michael Walker, Foy Aluakon, Deion Jones. Three buildable, elite-minded linebackers. So it's good to hear that Michael Walker is picking right back up where he left off. Interceptions, being all around the ball, flying around, getting the guys motivated. One thing that stood out to me was he was helping the rookie linebackers get organized, teaching them, because he said that he understood what it was like to be in that spot. So we're starting to see some of these players come into their own, and I do think it's just as a result of the new regime. You're hearing Marlon Davidson more. We're hearing guys like that a little bit more than we've heard over the past couple of, I would say last year, because I'll be honest with you, I didn't hear Marlon Davidson anything in camp. I didn't hear anything. I didn't know anything.
All you heard was that he was essentially out of shape, whether that was due to an injury or due to COVID. But it does seem like I said, it does seem like he's, picking it up. I do like what I'm hearing about Michael Walker. He was a guy who I was very high on when we got drafted. When he got drafted last year, I compared him to like a poor man's Isaiah Simmons from Clemson that everybody wanted. Kind of a do-it-all linebacker, whether it's coverage or rushing or dropping in at the safety position. What have you on that end. I really think that Michael Walker's versatility and diversity will lend itself if he picks it up here, you know what I'm saying? If he picks up what Dean Pease is trying to do, I think he's a guy who can really excel in this system and with this coaching staff. Myself, he's a guy who I'm really excited about, and I think it frees up. I think he will be able to free up Deion Jones to be more of that rover, style. Let Deion, sit back in coverage or rush on one of them A-gap blitzes or whatever. As much as I love Deion Jones, but I'd much rather keep him from having to stick his nose up in the line per se. Yeah. He can do it, but I'd much rather have Foye or Michael Walker, going head on, meeting a running back in the hole kind of deal.
Absolutely. And I think that, the good thing about what you're saying right now is that I think when you look at the three players that gives Dean Pease the giddiest right now, because, he talks about we're going to blitz from everywhere, we're going to be multiple, all of that kind of stuff. Those are the three special forces players on this defense, because I use it like that because all three of those linebackers can cover, The luxury of having three linebackers who can cover almost like safeties is awesome. But it's like you only need two of those linebackers to cover. One of those guys, who also is good against rushing the passer, will be able to contribute as an additional pass rush, i.e. Deion Jones not having to cover as much, but rushing the passer. Because we know, we saw when he started to rush the passer, he was probably as good as darn near some outside edge rushers at getting to the quarterback because he's so freaking fast. It's like, okay, we got to get smart now, Jared. I almost feel like we have to get smart because it's like, okay, we got a linebacker. True enough, for a defense in shamble, we got a linebacker that runs almost a 4-3 right now. So it's like, all right, JR, we got a problem with getting to the quarterback, and we got a 71-year-old defensive coordinator who's seen 40 to 50 years of defenses and knows how to break them down at an absolutely elite level. Deion Jones, those are guys like that, like I said, that I think that when we look at can the defense overperform? Absolutely. If those three linebackers it's out game after game, everything else will work around those guys because they're that good. Seriously, all of them flashed last year on a team that was horrible, getting beat down on defense. I look at Ford Lewicon against the game against the Cowboys, Deion Jones against the Raiders, Michael Walker just at various points against the season. These guys are going to do nothing but get better. So we can't get so focused on Calvin Ridley and his foot injury and Julio Jones. And this defense is getting better, and we see it right now.
That's very much true. And if y'all hadn't had a chance to watch it, me and Toby did a video on the the type of defense that Dean Pease runs. That creeper style defense, and all that really means. And I'll give you a quick summary. All that creeper defense means is it's a 4-man rush, but one of the 4 is coming from a different level, right? Basically, you have 4 down linemen. One of your linemen drops into a shallow coverage while somebody from either the secondary level or the linebacker level or whatever, and that's where he talks about rushing from all different angles, comes in on a rush. And he was doing that a lot in Tennessee with Logan Ryan, who I've talked about a bunch just because of, just because of the way he was used is such an interesting way to me. If y'all get a chance, like I said, go back and watch that video because that creeper defense that he deployed in Tennessee really suits our roster very well with what we have. And the strength of our roster, in my opinion, is the linebackers, is the versatility in those linebackers. I think it's going to allow them to do a lot of different things on this, with this front, as long as the defensive line basically just holds up and keeps them clean. Right now, until I see it in action, everybody's like, oh, what about the edge? What about the edge? Dante Fowler Jr. right now is kind of an afterthought to me until he shows me that he's back into form, right? Where I see a lot of our production coming from is Grady Jarrett, obviously. I think he's going to come alive in this defense. And then our linebackers, whether it's, Dion blitzing or Foye blitzing or Michael Walker blitzing.
Right.
I think that our the strength of our defense as it stands right now is the linebacker core, and I think it has a lot of it has the potential of having the secondary come along too, with AJ Terrell taking the next step. Seeing how Richie Grant gets deployed, and Deron Harmon and Jalen Hawkins. There's some pieces in this secondary that I think can also come alive.
Absolutely.
Let's
and it's actually interesting you brought it up about the linebackers and the defensive linemen. I do think, yes, that is a secret sauce of DMPs, and I do think that breeds well for a lineman like John Kaminsky. I'll tell you what, if there's any defensive lineman that I feel comfortable maybe dropping back, maybe, batting the ball down, being able to get a guy to the backfield, I would say the Kaminsky, some of our more athletic linemen, not that they're good cover guys or nothing like that. I think that it adds to what he's able to do. Because if you look at it like this, DMPs has made a living of meeting guys where they're at and building a defense around what he has, right? So if he's seeing John Kaminsky, former quarterback, these guys that are athletic defensive linemen, use these guys on different type of stunts. Max these guys' value out. And I guarantee you, I do think that a guy like John Kaminsky could sneak up and get maybe an interception this year. Just something like that. Like, we need to see kind of ability because it's there. But if we don't use it, it'll never come to fruition.
That's right. George D tipped us $5. George, if you got a comment or something you would like, question, go ahead and throw it in there. Y'all know the rules. If I say rules, y'all know how we do. If you tip us, then you definitely got the platform to ask a question or whatnot. All right, let's jump back into chat here. Let's see. Chris James says, after watching the Creepers video, I went down a rabbit hole, and this defense could be top 15. It's easy to start going down a rabbit hole.
I like it.
I got another rabbit hole that I've been going down since we got this. Since me and Toby got this Creepers defense video put out, I've started down another rabbit hole that I'm gonna be dropping a video probably on either Friday or Saturday. That I think hopefully y'all find interesting, especially in light of the the Julio stuff. So, let's see. Keep it on rolling. James Williams says, so glad I found this channel. Much love, pound for pound. We are glad you found it too. King says, man, I'm waiting for that Pease interview. Really want to know what he sees in the guys. I'm curious how he'll use them. King, if you hadn't listened to it, you should go dig up that interview he did on 92.9 with their morning show. That was a good interview.
And spoiler alert, he really, really, really likes Grady Jarrett. So
I just likes it. That's right. Joshua says, agree with you on Walker totally, Mike. Pease is going to have this D on another level. Might not be top shelf, but definitely a higher, more developed level. And that's what I think. I think you're going to get more consistency. And the one I think just the again, kind of going back to the coaching, so to speak, just the propensity to make the in-game adjustments and not be stubborn and stick to cover 1 or cover 3, but actually seeing what the team's doing and adjusting to the flow of the game. I think that's going to be huge in and of itself.
And actually, one more thing on that. I think what was a telling sign for me is coaches send out players that they feel the most comfortable with to interview, right? And I think through minicamp, they could have sent out Foye Oluokun, and we could have talked to Foye Oluokun about how minicamp is going, but he sent Michael Walker out. And this is a new coach looking at the talent that he sees, not off of previous biases, and he sent Michael Walker out there. So I think, what we probably need to watch over the next couple of months is who are the guys that they send out there to talk to people. Here's the thing. What I haven't seen a lot, JR, is from the previous regime or the previous regime before that. Frank Darby actually got a chance to get interviewed a couple weeks ago. Yeah. When does a 6th-round pick get interviewed? You see what I'm saying? So ultimately what I'm saying is this. We had an A-plus draft. So, where these guys got drafted at, we get it. Frank Darby, 6th round. But I would say with a lot of these guys, what I realize that Arthur Smith is most excited about is no matter what we prognosticate, what other people say, he's kind of starting to get an idea of how he wants to build his team.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's actually fun to see because for us, it makes us just sit back and say, all right, coach, we've analyzed this stuff.
Yeah, wait,
what do you got?
All right, exactly. All right, so we're going to keep riding on rolling. King says, I'm also hyped about Pitts and Hurst this year. That two tight end set, it's going to be lethal.
Of course.
If you're hyped
Yes.
about Pitts and Hurst, you're definitely going to like the video that I put out on Friday. It centers around that two tight end set, kind of give you a little, preview, so to speak. It centers around that and how I think that's going to work and how it can be used. We had kind of already answered Tony's question. He said, question for Mike, I believe that our two starting safeties will be Jalen Hawkins and Richie Grant. We have a very young secondary. Your thoughts? Before I get your thoughts, Mike, I will say it seems like Jalen Hawkins is getting overlooked quite a bit by some people. I am happy that we have a guy like Deron Harmon who can come in and solidify that position, but I wouldn't count out, a guy like Jalen Hawkins to, show himself to be,
Absolutely.
To be worth it. Do you have any thoughts on that young secondary other than that?
I do. One I like to take because I see where you're coming from, and I see that you're not really what I take. And again, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. Is I was a veteran. I did this there. Doesn't matter when you're here, right? So fundamentally, if you see Jalen Hawkins and Richie Grant as our two best options, I will say this. That to me, again, let's get bold because you made me go bold with the way you phrased the question. Is we could be a top 15 defense because I do feel like what is safest for this team, safe, because, again, it's not a safe league, but what is safest for this team right now is Deron Harmon, Richie Grant. Proven guy, really kick butt rookie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jalen Hawkins, we can use you in however we can use you. But if Jalen Hawkins truly comes in and takes control of a position where they've drafted, they've gotten free agents because they've seen, because you're right. Because what they're saying to Jalen Hawkins is, that was great because I'll be honest with you. That was the one pick the year before that I thought was an absolute reach in the fourth round. And I was like, okay, great. What do we get out of this guy? But we saw a guy that needed time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's still a guy that needs time. But if he is the guy that is taking that step from year one to year two, and he's a true enforcer at strong safety with a growing rookie and they're communicating, we're in a good place in the defense. I do think that Deron Harmon is more needed for this defense from a leadership standpoint.
I think
because
so.
we got to have a guy that knows how to get everybody aligned and get everybody to roll. But again, I would not be surprised if Jalen Hawkins takes that step because he's got the size, he's got the measurables, ball hawk, proved it. But again, if you don't prove it, why you got a Falcons hat on, what you did at Berkeley means nothing.
And I think it's a thing where, Deron Harmon played under Belichick, a system that, Pease is obviously, cut his teeth under and stuff like that. So
right.
it's a thing that, it doesn't surprise me, but I would like to see the young guys, I guess you could say. Ghost Pepper says, I think the Falcons should bring in Tony Tony Gonzalez for a couple days to, work with Pitts and Hurst. I don't know if he's in that kind of mode, but if that's an availability, I would love to hear it. I'd love to see it. I know Pitts and Hurst are going to do that tight end university with George Kittle and Travis Kelce and all those guys. So what you got, Mike? What's your finger raised?
Okay. Not to bust anybody's bubble, and I'm not an insider by any means. I'm a Joe Schmo fan like you, but Matt Ryan has already set it up. He already got Kyle Pitts and Hayden Hurst with Tony G because Matt Ryan is friends with Tony G, and Tony G is.
So okay, now look, now are you just feeling like I got it set up, or you seen something? Because I ain't seen nothing.
For Matt Ryan's words, Matt Ryan said that I will get him connected to Tony G. When we drafted,
I got you.
Listen,
okay. I think I remember that now. So
let's talk about it. So, Ryan, you're like Drew Brees was when he was 36 years old. He's sitting on the couch and he's like, got a couple more years in New Orleans. I'm eating beignets, whatever. And it was like, we draft Jimmy Graham. And it's like, okay, Jimmy Graham. Wait, Jimmy Graham. This tight end, he was a basketball player, but wait, he's 6'8". He can do this. He can do that. Wait, this guy might actually help my career. Let me do something. And that's exactly what Drew Brees did. He did something, and Drew Brees ended up Jimmy Graham ended up extending Drew Brees' career.
Right.
It's a factual statement. I think with a Matt Ryan, I'm sitting on the couch and it's like, wait a minute, whoa. Kyle Pitts is actually here because Matt Ryan said nobody consulted with him about who they would take at the number 4 pick. So he's sitting there like Kyle Pitts, and he's like, whoa, this guy's now an Atlanta Falcon. Let me call Tony G. Tony G, look, man,
somebody, you got to go talk to him.
But you need to talk to this guy and make sure all right, got it done. But again, he still got to prove it on the field. So it's already happened.
That's it. All right, so let's see. Alan Jones says Arthur Smith is reminding me of young Parcells with the Giants. We can hope. Adam Holloway says the two free safety sets. The 2 free safety sets will be starters of Richie Grant and Deron Harmon. Hawkins looks like he's a player playing a lot closer to the line in the 3-3-5 defense, or the nickel defense, playing safety or the bullet position. Yeah, I think that's a place that he can excel at. Hawkins can excel. Even potentially Isaiah Oliver can excel at that bullet position. That's something to look out for.
And that's a battle. You know what? I would go ahead and call it a full-blown battle. I do think, for as much as we talk about the nickel, for Jalen Hawkins to really see the field, he's got to battle with Isaiah Oliver.
Oh, yeah, he's going to have to.
Listen, what I like about this team this year is even to get on the field in the dime sets will be competitive. Because, again, we don't know what a Darren Hall is going to do. We don't know what Avery Williams
There's a lot of guys who could end up like really carving out a role. All right, we've got some tips coming in, so I need to read these. Stu the Pepperhead done send us $5, and oh Lord, here we go. Okay, he's gonna make me. He's trying to hurt me. Diverving didactic diatribes dutifully derived, deservingly denoting defense, denouncing dull diatribes, done dudes. Rise up. Thank you, Stu. I appreciate you always trying to break my brain.
You got to denounce something in there. You're doing good. Why you got to denounce something? Come on, Stu.
Then Joshua Mulvaney tipped us $20. Thank you very much, Joshua. He says, no comment, fellas. Just love the channel and the content and the discussion with real Atlanta fans. Well, we appreciate y'all being here. I mean, all jokes and cutting up aside, this is why we do it. This is why we do it every week, is to chat with y'all.
And not to cut you off, JR, but any other week, man, I'll tell you something. After the Jet left, it was a come to whatever you believe in moment. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? For all of us as Falcons fans, because
then you had to really decide, because and the last one, I'm gonna do this real quick, and then I want to touch on what you're talking about there.
Please do.
Mean Red Machine tipped us $5 and put up a GIF of a red panda saying hiya. So thank hiya to you too. Appreciate the $5. Now, to speak on what you were talking about, what you were kind of alluding to there, lead up to this draft process, we heard nothing about. All we heard from a lot of the Falcons fan base, or at least a lot of what I saw on social medias, Twitter, stuff like that, even in our own chat during leading up to the draft, was that we should be fans of the team and not necessarily be a fan of the player. And this was in regards to, drafting a quarterback, because we made no bones about it here in pound for pound land. We weren't necessarily on the train of drafting a quarterback. If it had happened, it was whatever, but we weren't really, on that train. But a lot of our, listeners, whatever fans, the people in the chat, like I said, we were seeing that, it's team first. You got to be team first. You got to be team first. If they draft a quarterback, then it's team first, right? And that was fine. Like we tried to express it, that we were straight up and down team first, as we have always been. So it's really interesting to see now, like, everybody's favorite player, Julio Jones, gets traded, and now it's not necessarily team first. You have, and this goes one way or the other. You have people who are, mad that the Falcons traded him. You have people who are upset with Julio. You have people who are in their feelings all the way around. You know what I'm saying? You got people who are wanting to burn their jerseys or throw them away, which, look, you done paid for them. You might as well keep them. You know,
Absolutely.
you done gave him that money, so ain't no sense in, wasting it. But people already want to throw their hands up on this, on this regime, saying that, they don't know what they're, what they're doing about, trading Julio and all this other stuff. So you have to decide, like, did they do him a solid by trading him? Because if he wanted out, then it really sounds like they did him a solid,
Yeah,
So the narrative, I find it funny how the narrative changes when it is the player that you are a super fan of. I mean, I'll straight up and down say it to anybody. Like, I am a fan of the team. Like, straight up. I've said it for years. You trade Matt Ryan to another team, well, I could care less how his career finishes out.
Absolutely.
I mean, I know that sounds heartless. I want to win a ring here.
Right.
Like,
right.
first and foremost. If Julio
Right.
Jones goes to Tennessee and wins a ring, okay, fine, so be it. Whatever.
Awesome for him.
I am more concerned about winning a ring here, period, point blank, with the guys on this roster. And that's, that's straight up. No, that's don't get me wrong. I'm glad Matt Ryan's here, obviously. But had they went a different route, had they traded or had they decided to draft Trey Lance, Justin Fields, whatever, what an insert scenario here, had they decided to do that and the coaching staff said, this is the guy that gives us the best chance to win, guess who I'd be rooting for?
Absolutely.
So,
I mean, without a doubt. And I think, it's interesting you bring it up because, I'll be honest with you. This is a pound for pound channel. It's for Black and Red. It's Dirty Bird Nation.
That's right.
Again, I have no disrespect to the Tennessee Titans. Nashville is a beautiful city. But if you want to be a Titans fan, you can tighten up on another channel. They got podcasts. They got their own.
I am.
About this is for what we do. This is for the Mercedes-Benz fans. This is for those fans that be out tailgating for years who are going to tailgate when it was Humphreys as the receiver or whoever was the receiver. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's for us. That's why we do this. So it can't be lost. Yes, it's emotional. It hurts. It sucks. Julio Jones basically said, yeah, Atlanta was great, but he's moved on. And if Julio Jones has moved on,
hey, I'm out, right? I'm done.
That's
it, in that aspect. All right, we're getting close to the hour mark, so let's start really running through this chat. I don't want to miss nobody. Ghost Pepper says, we are fortunate this is happening. Along with scheme adjustments and new coaching staff. It would be a good thing that we're getting a coaching staff that hasn't been attached for Julio for years. That much is for sure. I do like, and I even made that statement. Everybody was so worried, and yes, I can't say it enough. I can't stress it enough. We were a better team with Julio, straight up.
Absolutely.
But this coaching staff ain't never coached Julio Jones. And what I mean by that is they are not reliant on what the Jet brings to the field.
Absolutely.
So they're coaching what they have. And, Arthur Smith ain't never coached Julio Jones. He didn't have Julio Jones up in Tennessee. Oh, we had A.J. Brown. Well, A.J. Brown ain't Julio Jones. So, with that being said, I'm excited to see what he does with the guys that we have. Let's see. Simplistic Gray says, I am not sold on Hayden Hurst at all. Really? Not at all? Well, hopefully my video on Friday will help change your mind. I am not sure if I like the two tight ends set idea right now. All right, like I said, you tune in on Friday when I release this video.
Hated in New England with Martellus Bennett and the other guy that we don't really talk about. But yeah,
Exactly. So anyway, yeah, you tune in and maybe I'll make you a believer. Iron Mike says, I'm glad most of the lames didn't want to be in Atlanta or gone. I mean, at the end of the day, however silly it sounds, I want you to want to be here. What's that old song? I want you to want me.
I want you to want me. You know what, Dad? You just freaking nailed it. Because I say, you know what? That comment is a guy that's like, hey, look, bro, you want to be a part of this team or not? Because what I realize is, and I hate to use this analogy, but it's like, I became a Falcons fan as a kid because, I was born in the state. It's like, it's a team I've always supported. But, football is a war. So you ask yourself, you may not think that your soldiers are the best. They going to win every war. But it's like, those are the people you go to war with. So it's like, ultimately, at this point, everybody that's still here, we go to war for this team. So what we do is we critique the elements of war. That's it. That's all we're going to do. Hey, that guy may not be, hey, his rifle is not strong enough. He needs more bullets in his rifle or whatever. But again, we're not switching up. So again, if you, I'll say it again. You want to take your guitar and banjo and go up to Nashville?
Hey, by all means, pick away, my friend.
Like us, we are right here in Pound Family. That's right.
All right, let's keep it on rolling. Says Simplistic Grace. Now, King 7 says, damn, I'm late. That's all right, King. You can go back and rewatch it. It's all good. You know, it gets on archives. Simplistic Grace says, I have a theory that the Super Bowl made the whole organizational culture change. So a new regime is needed to bring in a new culture. Yeah, I mean, this, you know, that's definitely a more than a possibility. Tony Wright says, JR, your thoughts on inside linebacker Errol Thomas from Mississippi State? Man, you were asking me about undrafted free agents. They said they were tackling a machine in college. Jones had 19 sacks and ran all over the field in college. Rotational player, definitely. Like that's a role that he could carve out, but I think he'll make his bones on the practice squad and then, you know, special teams, and he's gonna have to show out basically too. Yeah. But hey, if he does, go on with it. I like it, you know. Let's see. Quasi says Falcons are going to be okay. I think so. That's kind of what I'm really starting to feel. I think they're going to be okay.
Absolutely.
To Big says, we was not a better team with Julio. That's why we went 4-12. Damn, man. You know what I'm saying? Hey, we lost 3 seasons in a row with him, so.
Boy, it's like, look, Julio, no, just win, man. You know what I mean? It don't matter.
Look, winning heals all. Period, point blank. Right. You start winning, and everything will be okay. Chris Jameson says, tailgating at Mercedes-Benz is on my bucket list. Much love from Oregon. Good Lord, Chris. You watch us from Oregon? My God, man. I'm glad you are joining us. I love seeing where everybody's from. Samuel Davis says the Falcons will be fine, especially if the run game is consistent and the defense and offensive line improves. It's a team sport. All that stuff. Yeah, if it all goes up, then yes, it will float, you know.
I tell you like this.
What's up?
The jet leaves, we breathe now. Okay,
the
jet is left.
Right. Okay, look, that storm cloud that has been hanging over is gone. Right. It's up 75 towards Nashville. So, and that's good. You know, I will say this: I'm glad there was closure before we got to training camp. Like full blank. This will probably be one of the last times I talk about a player on somebody else's team. King 7 said this is about to be a basic Falcons team. I think the high-flying Falcons is over. It's going to be checkdowns, so that exciting Falcons is over. Is slow-paced games from now. I don't know if it's necessarily slow-paced, but you are on to something, King. If you're wanting that like high-explosive offense, that's not what Arthur Smith runs. Arthur Smith runs a, balanced approach that does take its shots, in a timely fashion, right? Like there isn't going to be no big shots taken, but there aren't going to be 7 big shots a game. So you see what I'm saying? I don't have it right in front of me, but Matt Ryan threw 70-something deep passes last season. Ryan Tannehill threw 36 deep passes last season. There was a big difference. So, with that being said, yes, this offense is going to look different. But as I'm going to get into in this video that's coming up, this offense is going to be predicated a lot on yards after catch. Okay? Because yards after catch for Arthur Smith is a high number up there in Tennessee. And I think that's something that's going to translate here.
I agree. Because you ask yourself, with our offense right now, with a lot of these guys in one-on-one situations, can they beat that man? And to me, the answer is yes. Can Calvin Ridley beat a guy one-on-one? Absolutely. Can Mike Davis beat a guy one-on-one in the open field? Absolutely.
Right.
Cordero, absolutely. And it's those type of things are what you're going to see is how can we get these guys in position that can win those one-on-one matchups? Maybe a Frank Darby. Maybe we can go deep with a Frank Darby. Maybe that's his role. Maybe that's the Zacchaeus' role. Maybe. But with a Kyle Pitts, again, explosion is going to come because we have the explosive players. And I think you will see the explosion more because you're not trying to chunk the ball 30 yards down to Julio Jones. You're not trying to force the ball to him on the 10-yard. You might see Kyle Pitts against the middle and let him do what he does. You see what I'm saying? We've got guys that give me the ball, let me do what I do. I like those guys because we don't even know yet what that measurable is. We absolutely right now cannot prognosticate the actual impact Kyle Pitts could have. Because, again, if Kyle Pitts plays the Eagles the first game and he goes for 175 receiving yards, everything that we're talking about may be a little bit out of the window from the perspective of personnel. Because, JR, you brought this to my attention about Jonnu Smith, Fisker in Tennessee, and the level of talent that they had. And don't get me wrong, Jonnu Smith got paid. Fisker got paid. But, again, Hayden Hurst and Kyle Pitts together, lining up at the same time. Kyle Pitts roaming around in motion, trying to find the best matchup and trying to exploit that matchup. It's a different type of lethal.
That's it.
So, again, let's just get comfortable with how Arthur Smith innovates because and all we're doing is prognosticating, but I cannot wait to see it over the next couple of months because, it's almost time, man, again.
That's it. Now, and then we're going to keep right on rolling. King brings up another good point, and he says, one thing I know is that the O-line doesn't step up. I don't care who Matt throws it to. It's going to be another long year. Julio made it easy for Matt to get the ball off to the best at getting separation. Now, I mean, the O-line's going to have to step up, like flat out. Like, we can't have another, 49, 50 sack year and expect much to change or expect much to get different. Like, there's so many different elements that are going to have to change. Like, I'm going to go sit here and tell you, before training camp starts, do I expect the Falcons to go out and, compete for the NFC South this year? I mean, realistically, probably not, right? I mean, but do I expect them to start to play consistent ball? Yes. And next year is when I really expect them to start to compete, right? So that's where I'm at least right now. Like, they start winning, and you might hear me start saying crazy stuff. Super Bowl, but no, I'm just kidding. But anyway, so Monex says, I'd rather have a slow approach and win than go up 20 and then gas out at the end. Exactly. Right. That's how we've been doing it. So right now we've been the definition of insanity. So something has to change, right? Let's see. I'm going to try to hit up a few more because we done bumped up over an hour. Tony Wright says, I totally disagree with the statement that Keith Spencer. Okay, what did Keith? Okay, Keith Spencer said, I had to go back up. Keith Spencer says Kyle Pitts is a newer version of Julio Jones. I don't know if I agree there either. Kyle Pitts is a professional. Is the professional version, not the collegiate version. I see what he says there. In college, Kyle Pitts was a man amongst boys, right?
Yeah.
I think that Kyle Pitts is going to come in and be a generational tight end. Like, he could be in 2 or 3 years talking about him the way we talked about Gronk in his prime. Like,
so
go ahead.
So real quick, and I hate to cut you off, but no,
you're fine.
So let us be cautious about Kyle Pitts because I want to be honest with you. Like let's get nerdy for a second. If you're an SEC fan, Kyle Pitts is a man amongst boys. But you know who Kyle Pitts was not a man against boys against? Was Lewis Seen from the University of Georgia. He was a safety for the University of Georgia. He almost ended Kyle Pitts' season completely when he gave him a concussion going across the middle. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that that's what will happen in the NFL. I'm not going that a guy will just knock, Kyle Pitts off of his pivot. But the point is this, is that this is a league where it's hard to say who will be the next Julio Jones.
Right.
I think this is where we got a really good player at the number 4 pick. Generational, Hall of Fame, any of that. My thing is this. Julio productivity is not what's going to get us to the Super Bowl. We don't need another Julio, to be honest with you. We've had a Julio.
Right.
You know what I mean? And again, we got really close, but we didn't win a Super Bowl. So what we need Kyle Pitts to come in and do is do exactly what Arthur Smith is asking him to do, and let's set realistic expectations. One good thing I can say is, with Julio Jones being gone, we have a clear, defined role for Kyle Pitts.
Right.
That, to me, allows him to be who he is. Because, again, Kyle Pitts himself is actually good enough to get us into the playoffs. I will boldly say that. But again, it's a team effort. It's a cohesive effort. A lot of things has to go right. The talent is there. The mindset is there. The future is there. But again, all of that is, do not put Julio Jones and Kyle Pitts in the same sentence, because Julio has earned the ability to be Julio Jones.
Yeah.
Kyle Pitts got to go out and prove it.
I want Kyle Pitts to be Kyle Pitts, like, period. I want him to be the best Kyle Pitts he can. And so, all right, a few more comments and we're going to wrap this thing up. Ghost Pepper says, in fairness, the defense did have some encouraging moments. They just couldn't sustain any pressure. Once the offense made adjustments, our defense was slowly collapse. Pease will go through the good games and the bads last season, show guys what went wrong, getting secondary assignments, responsibility strengthened out by simple. Yeah, I think Pease is going to be the difference on the defense, honestly. David Breland says, I think it was the predictability run game. Everybody in the mama knew when we was running. Exactly. That's part of like the deal. You know, I think the things we're talking about here is what makes me say coaching matters, right? And I think that's going to be, that's what I'm most excited about, to see what this new coaching staff comes up with. Wallace Smith says, and we can't keep going off of what we've done in the past years, because this is a new regime and we haven't played a game under them just yet. Right. That's what makes it hard. And you know, like, you can go back and look at what they've done in the past, but even that's only a somewhat of a tale, because you have a completely different roster here with guys who are good or better at things. What I do find encouraging is how, you know, Dean Pease was able to adjust his schemes to the players that he has. These coaches seem like they are more interested in putting together a scheme that benefits their players versus trying to shove their players into a scheme. So, absolutely. On that note, I think it's a good spot to end. We went well over an hour. We're about an hour and 13. Thank y'all so much. As always, y'all can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Grimm1128, GRIMM1128. Mike Dub?
Hey, man, Mike Dub, man. MIKE_DUB. Follow. I follow back. If I don't, just tell everybody. Mike Dub don't follow back. I will definitely follow back.
And if y'all want access to the Pound for Pound only chat, go over to Patreon, sign up there. We have a Pound for Pound only chat with a lot of good information that doesn't necessarily see the airways all the time, or you can get early insight on things that we're working on. So, you know, go check that out. And you can also get access to videos that we don't even release to the general public. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, go check it out on Patreon. But as always, Falcons fans, rise up.